What's up, everybody? It is Icky Timey, and welcome to Tuesday Tea Time. I'm really excited. Today, we've got some amazing human beings in the house today. I mean, they're not in the house, but you get what I'm saying. They're in the house. Before we get rocking, though, I do want to remind you that we're on here every Tuesday doing something fun with somebody, giving you some really good info, helping you get introduced to some amazing stories, some miraculous things, and giving you some really cool educational tips to how to up your game in a bunch of different things. So I want you to go ahead and hit that like button. Let me give you 2 seconds to do that. 1, 2, do it. Did you do it? Did you hit the like? Good. Okay, hit the like. If you haven't, do it now. I'm going to give you a second. Okay, and I want to also invite you to hit the subscribe. Please do it. The more you hit the subscribe, the better it is for us. The better it is for us, the better it is for you. So we want to always bring some really good, healthy, amazing, valuable content into your life. And when you hit that subscribe button, you're going to get like that little ding that tells you we're ready to go again in another week. So do that for us now, would you please? So who I've got today, I want to just introduce you to them before we get going. I've got Pastor Jillian Lutz. I've got Pastor Josie Santio, Pastor Celeste Harrison, and Pastor Sarah Grover. These phenomenal women. I have the wonderful privilege and honor of working with every single one of these ladies in one part of my ministry or another. They rock hard and heavy. You're going to have a lot of fun listening to them. They're thoughtful, they're innovative, they're creative. And so the time this week is not going to be wasted. Make sure if you're just jumping on to share this with somebody else, get them on it, and we'll get going. Before we do, I do want to say hello to this human being right here. Today, our Say Hello campaign is highlighting Olivia Che. She's from the Rolling Hills area. She's a member of the Rolling Hills Church. During the pandemic time when it was lockdown, she started having a devotional with her mom. And that turned into her saying, you know what, Mom, I'm going to just start doing my own devotionals. And then that turned into her talking with a friend, and they started doing devotionals together. And then that turned into a small group, which they call Bible Buddies. That's phenomenal, Olivia. Olivia, today you are a chica of the day. Great work. What new things has God done in your life during these lockdowns? What have you been doing? Have you seen God moving around? Thanks to Olivia. Thank you, my girl, for reminding us that God is still doing new things even in these times. Olivia, you rock the house. Next week, speaking of cool women, we've got Hannah D with us. Hannah D, music. She's a music prodigy and songwriter. She's currently an OT student in Loma Linda, but recently she just released an EP, Out of Sight. If you have an opportunity, jump on and pick up her EP, Out of Sight, Out of Mind. She's also a member at the Eagle Rock Church out this way. She's a young adult, phenomenal. We're going to get to hear a piece of her stuff a little bit next week when she's on. We'll ask her some fun questions. We'll walk through the process of making music and using that ingenuity and that creativity. But today, we're going to be hanging out with Pastor Ladies. Right. What's up, my girls?
Hi.
Hey, ladies, how are
Hi.
you doing? You know what? We are missing one. Let me get Sarah in here. Sarah Grover.
Where is Sarah?
Pastor Sarah Grover. Where are you at, my girl? There you are.
Hey, there she is.
Ah,
Yay!
what's up? How are you ladies doing?
So excited.
We're good. Yeah.
I'm wishing that we had more sun. I don't love the rain, but
Now, what's the weather up there right now, Josie?
it's freezing cold and it's raining a lot. So it's
I
raining
forgot
cold.
to introduce where you all are from. So before we get too far in, I do want to ask, what are you drinking today?
I am drinking. It is. Let me get this. It's like a lavender tea, and it's amazing. It's called a stress relief tea from Yogi. So
Very nice.
Yes. You, Celeste?
I am doing a chai tea today from Starbucks. I do not get into their. Don't hate me, but I can't do the pumpkin spice lattes. They're just not my thing.
Wow.
I know, right? Shocking.
You are a rare
Guys,
breed.
no. I am. Yeah.
I feel like I should ask Sarah what she's drinking because she's laughing a lot. I'm worried that it might be illegal. Sarah, what are you sipping on?
Pumpkin spice.
So it's called a Hello Pistachio Latte, and it's from my favorite local coffee shop, Sagebrush. So if you guys ever want to come visit, I will treat you, but none of you will come, I know.
You know what? I'm coming now, Sarah. You're offering coffee. I'm coming out.
First, shout
I
out
don't
to
know.
what's the place called, Sarah?
Sagebrush Cafe, local business. Woo-hoo.
Shout out to the local business, Sagebrush. Good job. Second of all, besides Celeste, I think you're right. None of us. It's a long drive. So, Jillian, what are you drinking, girl?
Cucumber water, because for reasons that would take too long to explain, I can't do coffee for the foreseeable future or tea.
Oh.
We're so proud of you, Jillian.
Yeah.
We should all be drinking that
Should all be better
cucumber
people.
lemon water. I actually have my water bottle here. That will be next, but this is first.
This is all true.
Now that Jillian's made us all hate ourselves a little bit, thanks, Jillian. Let's move
No,
on.
it's to keep
playing
my
around.
voice from dying again.
Oh, poor
Totally
Jillian.
understandable. Totally understandable. Can you all tell me where you're ministering from? Where do you pastor from? By the way, if you're just checking in with us, welcome on. This is Tuesday Tea Time. We are hanging out with lady pastors who are rocking the cloth as females. And if you've got any questions or comments, drop them in there. We'll ask them because they're here with us. All right. Let's start with Celeste and we'll work our way around. Celeste.
I am a youth pastor at a church in Torrance, California, South Bay. Hello, shout out to my South Bay youth. I hope
Shout
you
out
guys
to
are
those in the
watching.
Torrance area.
Yes,
Get it?
yes. 1 mile from the beach. It's beautiful.
Oh, man. It's got to be hard to keep their attention with the beach so close.
You know, they go to the beach less than I do. I think that it's confusing to me.
Oh, sad life. Jill, where are you pastoring at?
West Covina Hills Adventist
Covina.
Church.
Nice.
And shout out to the principal of the school, Donald Shelton, who watches this show nearly every week.
I love that guy. Don, if you are watching, what's up? I hope you are. Drop us a comment, bro. I love him. You guys don't understand. If you don't know, Donald's voice is like silky butter, man. It's the, what's that really good butter? That's that Irish really tasty butter. What is that?
I think Ikey's got a
I
crush
just
going
think
on
of.
here.
I have a huge crush, man. Oh,
He's
man.
like, I want
Wow.
that voice.
Oh, man, his voice is good. Yeah. Donald, man, much love to you if you're watching. Shout out to you. Pastor Josie, where are you from?
I am from Northern California. I am up by PUC. There's a church by the hospital called The Haven.
The Haven Church.
So,
For those of you who don't know what PUC might be standing for, it stands for Pacific Union College up in the Angwin Hill, right? Josie, is it Angwin?
Angwin? Yeah.
Yeah. Up in Angwin. Up in Angwin.
Hi, Casey.
Casey says he has a pastor crush on Pastor Josie, don't we? Oh, she's so cool with her cool glasses. Ugh. I've got a pastor crush on Casey, so. Sarah, my girl, where are you rocking at right now? Where are you pastoring at?
I'm at Lancaster Adventist Church in Lancaster.
Lancaster. There's not much to say there, everybody. That's Lancaster.
So
She has a
shout
coffee
out to
shop.
all my Lancaster people, all my Antelope Valley people. We exist. We matter.
Yes, you do.
I'm just saying.
Antelope Valley
We
does
got
exist.
poppies.
Lancaster. You guys got pop. What are you known for out there, Sarah?
Poppy.
Hey, man, we all got to be
Okay,
known for
wait.
something. That's great.
Something else that is cool. Another reason to come visit me, guys.
Uh-huh.
There is a musical road. So when Honda made this commercial way back when, they put grooves in the road and they
Yes.
drove over it,
Mhm.
and it made the William Tell Overture, which is like right. It was by a neighborhood, so they paved over it because the neighbors were so angry hearing it all day long.
Yeah, I bet.
So they moved it out into the middle of nowhere. So if you come visit me, I'll get you coffee and we can drive over that road so many times. It'll be fun.
Can you still hear
You
it,
know
Sarah?
what?
Can you still
I'm
hear it?
so down.
Yeah, you can still hear it.
Yeah, let's
I'm-
do this.
I'm surprised Celeste isn't in her car driving up there right now. Excellent.
I want to see how
excellent.
fast we can get this song to play.
Oh my god.
This
My
should be the
favorite part is when
next
it's
SCC female pastor outing.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
In separate cars, guys. We can't.
Yeah,
like,
right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah. Respect the virus.
Social
Respect
distance,
it.
absolutely.
Oh,
Respect the
man.
space, absolutely.
Ladies, do you have any shout outs? Anybody you need to shout some love to? Anybody you got to give some props to right now? Go for it. This is your time.
I want to give a shout out to the Haven Church, and
Haven.
We're pretty amazing. So all of our leadership, and because we're awesome. Yeah.
Right on. Real quick question for you,
Julietta,
Josie.
Mhm.
Was the Haven affected at all by the fires?
Yeah.
Did you guys
Yeah.
lose any buildings?
Yeah, we lost 2 buildings.
Mm.
So we lost a thrift store and our community hall. And I have 14 households that have lost their homes. And there's our local school, our elementary school, half of that burnt down and the other half had some damage.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Our love and our prayers out to the Haven.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. What about you other three, you hooligans?
So this hooligan right here, my daughter better be watching because I want us to give a shout out to, I am a grandma. So I'm giving a shout out to my granddaughter, Finley.
Woo,
Finley, Nana says hi, and you better be watching.
It's awesome. How old is Finley now?
Finley is 1.5 years. And every time we
Oh.
FaceTime, she likes to press the red button and hang up on me.
Yeah. Oh, love to Finley. All right. Sarah, you want to give a shout out to your
Well,
road?
I give a shout out to the musical road that put us on the map that nobody knows about. Well, I shout out to all of you watching. It's nice to have you here with us. We would not be having this much fun without you. So shout out to all of you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Jill, what about you?
I already gave my shout out to Mr. Shelton, but I would also like to give a shout out to everyone else who hangs out on the comments of Tea Time every week right with me. It's been fun with you.
That's so true. But everyone, by the way, if you're on, I need you to give some love back to these ladies right here. Jillian has been like my co-host on like the down low. Like she's not. Jillian. This is your first time actually on the actual broadcast, right? But,
Yes.
but every week, Jillian's in the comments, man. She's dipping in there. And she's like, I'm like, oh, I love it. Go, Jillian. Go. So now you all, when Jillian is commenting, you all can put a face to it. This is Jillian right here doing the work.
Yes.
I want to get started by some stuff that'll kind of cruise us right into this. Pretty simple, pretty upfront, but that'll help everyone kind of get to know you all a little bit. Is that okay? So we're going to do this by show of hands. And if this pertains to you, just raise your hand nice and high so we can see that. And then along the way, as you're watching, by the way, welcome to Tea Time. If you're watching along, feel free to drop a comment or ask a question, and I'll shoot it right to the ladies, and we'll get on that. Okay, so by show of hands, how many of you are married? Raise that hand nice and high. All right. Okay, 2 of you are married. Fantastic. How many of you have kids? Have kids? All right. None of you non-married ones have kids? Okay. No, I'm just saying. Okay.
Is that a judgmental
No,
statement right there?
I'm just saying.
Yeah, come on, Icky.
Such a hater. Okay, moving on. How many of you, by show of hands, are first-generation Adventists? First-generation Adventists? Okay, very cool, very cool. How many of you in this, in our group here, are lead pastors? Are you a lead pastor at your church? Are you the lead pastor? No? Okay. Are you an associate pastor, or youth pastor? Okay. Are you a solo pastor? Solo pastor? Oh, that also means you're a lead pastor. Come on, Josie. You're
That was a trick
Yes,
question.
absolutely, Josie.
That was a trick question.
Distinguished.
You're leading. You're the only one there. You gotta. All right.
Well, anyway.
The questions were confusing.
Yeah,
Icky.
they were. Yeah.
There are
like an
arguments
SAT
about this
test.
on
I don't-
Facebook.
I don't know why I made him so
All
hard.
that apply? I don't know.
It's not a GRE exam. My bad, ladies. Here we go. Okay. How many of you have been in full-time ministry for at least 2 years? 2 years? 2 years? Okay, good. How many of you have been in full-time ministry for 5 years? 5 years? 5 years? Good. And how many of you have been in full-time ministry for at least 10 years? 10 years? 10 years anyone?
Think.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
Yeah, it's
My-
like
I'm
that,
was
isn't
right
it?
gray
at
lines,
9,
like-
I want to say.
Yeah.
I think I'm right at 9.
Which is, I love that because all of you look unsuspectingly young. But by the fact that you have been in ministry for a good span it says a lot about who you are and your profession and your professionalism. So thank you for the work that you've done. Especially
welcome.
since our church is in a growing process with female ministry, and 10 years ago we weren't as enlightened as we were today. So thank you for the work that you've put in over the years. Okay. So, how many of you have ever felt the pressure of being compared to a male colleague? Have you ever felt the tangible pressure of being compared to a male colleague? Okay, good. How many of you are born in the U.S.? Born in the U.S.? Okay. How many of you have a heritage that is not American? Not American? Not American? Okay. Part, you're half and half? Okay, Sarah's like, yeah, okay.
I'm a mocha.
You're mocha latte. Okay, good. How many of you always knew that this was God's call for your life? Anyone? Very good.
With some reversals, more or less.
That's fantastic. All right. So let's get to talking a bit. Let's talk a little bit about your stories. When did you know, Josie, that you were called into ministry? When did God hit you that light bulb?
Well, I always wanted to do church work, but because of the fact that there weren't very many women pastors, the idea of actually being one just never came across my mind. And so I was going to be a doctor and then do ministry.
Wow.
And I think it was when I had started speaking and I joined home-based team at La Sierra University. It was during that whole experience that I was like, gosh, I want to do this forever.
You know it's the Lord calling when you leave the idea of becoming a doctor, because, man, let me tell you, there's a pay grade difference. That's your gems are in heaven for sure. What about you, Celeste?
So it's so funny because I feel like I just kind of tripped and fell and realized I was doing ministry. I came into Adventism in my early 20s, and I don't know, I just started taking over things. I was running Pathfinders. I became the church secretary, and then our youth pastor left, and I was basically doing his job without the pay, and realized I should probably, but I realized it was something I would do without getting paid for it. I just loved being a part of the ministry. And I think people were starting to tell me hey, I think this is where God's calling you. And I'm like, no, I'm a woman. I'm not supposed to do this. So that played a huge role for me figuring out that, and at the time I hadn't met another female pastor. So I didn't know that they actually existed.
Wow.
So it took me a while to recognize that it was a real call and not just because everyone says for a female, I'd always heard that it's just your imagination, that it wasn't it was just your emotions kind of telling you that that's what you were feeling. And so I just pushed it aside because I thought, okay, well then it's not right. I'll just continue doing what I'm doing. But then it just, I don't know, I kind of, laid out my fleece and realized that this was real and God was, really pushing my hand to go to school and to do this full time.
Wow. Sarah, did you have one of those moments where it was like God was like, when did you realize it? When did lightning strike for you?
So a lot of people have the moment that they knew they were not that person. So just when people have the moment when they met Jesus and they wanted to give their life, I kind of just grew up with Jesus in my life. I kind of just grew up wanting to serve the Lord. And I distinctly remember when I was 5, I wanted to be a nurse, a missionary, and a teacher. And then when I got stitches when I was 11, nurse like automatically went off that list. I was like, I don't want to do this to Eddie because I went and got stitches. I don't ever want to do that to anybody. That was so awful. I was screaming. Anyways, so my undergrad was in English and I had a teaching concentration. So I went the teaching route. But interestingly enough, when I graduated from college, it just didn't feel right to teach. And very long story short, the Adventist church that I had left and the Adventist world that I had left, I didn't leave God, but I left the Adventist world. God called me back to that church and I became a Kidsman director. And ever since then, ever since I graduated from college, I was like, God, I don't know what you want me to do with these degrees. I don't know what you want me to do with my life, but my hands are open and whatever door you open, I will walk through. And so 6 years ago, if you asked me if I would be here on a panel of pastors as a woman pastor, I would probably say what? But I'm just trying to be obedient to what God has given me. And I recognize the gifts and talents he's given me has really bolstered me into the ministry in such a way that how can I deny that? Even if anyone else says no, I'm like, take it up with God.
Right.
He's the one who's brought me here. So yeah.
Wow, so powerful. Now, Jillian, you probably had to wade through and consider some of your options. Can you tell us a little bit about that and when was the conviction for ministry started for you?
Well, when I was 6 or 7, I was like, I love Jesus. I love people. I want to be a pastor. But then someone sat down and explained the realities of the job to me. And I was like, whoa. And in my kid brain, it did not sound like fun. So that was one of the reversals. And I was kind of protected from the other reversal for a while, but you don't live in a family of Adventist employees in Adventist circles forever without finding out that people don't like women in ministry. And that scared me off for a while too, even as I was discovering more and more clearly that this was my calling. I was like, that's scary. Maybe I'll be a teacher like my parents and grandfathers. I would have been a 3rd generation teacher if I'd gone that route. Even as it became clearer and clearer that that was what I was meant to do, in high school, I was preaching evangelistic series abroad and all kinds of stuff. I was religious vice president, all kinds of things. I was still kind of scared of all that noise. So when I signed up for college at PUC, I put myself down as a double major for theology and Spanish, figuring that either way I went, those would come in handy. But the moment that clinched it was when I was sent to the orientation meeting for theology majors, and I saw how few people there were there. In fact, I believe there were only 5 of us.
Jillian?
Yeah. There were only 5 of us. I was the only woman, and 2 of them work in this conference alongside me now. Hi, Brian and Danny. And that just sunk it to me. Okay. Teaching is a wonderful, marvelous, and important calling, but there is a serious pastor shortage coming up. And even if I don't think that I'm the best person for the job, God needs someone to do it.
That's right.
And it just so turns out that you're the right person for the job. So God knows what he's doing, doesn't he? Wow. Really, the church in general has become a much better place because of you 4 and other pastors like yourselves who's really taken on the mantle of going into ministry and leading the people, man. I mean, it's fantastic. It's a real honor. Kevin said that you all should be lead pastors. So he's willing to give up his pastoral
Kevin,
spot
talk to
for
our
you.
boss.
And Annie, my girl Annie, she says we're enlightened today. So that was good, Annie. All right.
There's some question marks on there too.
Yes,
right?
yeah. She's sharp. That one is. Hey, so if you're just joining us, I am with 4 pastoral ladies who are doing some great work in the world. We're gonna stop and do a 3-2-1 hack for you all. So this is the time when we're gonna give you some practical tips. If you're ready for a practical tip, on something about your life, this is the moment. Pull out a pen, get your typing ready to write down these notes. Ladies, are you ready to do a 3, 2, 1 with me?
Yes.
Woohoo!
Great.
Yes.
Great. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to ask you for 3 tips, 2 tips, and 1 tip in certain areas. And I want you all to give me your best 3, 2, 1s that someone can do immediately that will help change their situation in that particular area practically as soon as they begin to do this. All right. Here's the first one. I want you to think about it. Give us 3 easy tips on how to stay sane during these COVID times. How to stay sane. So we know that mental health has gone awry during these times. We know that isolation has created some real anxiety, some devastation emotionally. What are 3 tips as pastors would you give the peoples to help them do right now that will give them some sense of balance emotionally and mentally? I want to start with I'm going to start with Sarah.
Because I asked this question, right?
Because you asked me that question. You better be ready. You better have it like this, girl. Let's go.
It's a good question, Sarah. It's a good question.
I don't want no
All right,
pauses.
guys.
I don't want nothing. Let me give it to me, girl.
One, I think exercise, any kind of exercise, even if it's just walking outside, is essential. 2, taking a break from screens, including the media. Just take a break. Just take a break from it.
Please,
And
yeah.
3, get someone else involved in your life, a spiritual mentor, a small group, something. Get connected to somebody so you don't feel isolated.
Wow. Those are 3 really. I feel sorry for the rest of you who have to follow that.
I'm sorry, I feel like I took theirs.
Man,
Because I don't think I can
was
follow
really
anybody
good.
else. So that was really good.
Josie, give us 3 tips you could give.
Okay, so Sarah took my exercise one, so I'm going to be a little
Nice.
bit more specific.
Good.
You
Okay.
can find some really great exercises on YouTube, and there's Dance to Disney. There's for those of you who are Disney fanatics, and yoga has actually been something that is the only thing that automatically helps with the mind-body connection. And so if you find yourself disassociating, then for me, it's take a bath, but find time to just stop. And 3, develop the relationships that are most important to you.
Wow. That's a good tangent. But yeah, about the same vein. Celeste, what about you?
When I first was thinking about it, I really feel like the best thing is having a schedule. So my 3, 2, 1 is waking up at the same time, no matter what, like whether weekend, day off, whatever, wake up at the same time. First thing I do is drink a tall glass of water. And then as soon as I do that, I sit down and have worship. So letting that be the schedule is really important. And then I would add just a little piece to that anything you wanted to add on for the rest of the day, you would add on at the end of that schedule because you already have a succinct thing that you do every single day.
Oh, that's good. That gives you some sense of normalcy even while everything else is kind of changing around us, isn't it?
Yes.
That's good. All right. Hey, Joe, what about you? Can you give us 3 things that people can do to help with balance?
I would
Sandy?
echo with the exercise thing, but zoom out to talk about caring for the body in general. If you have time freed up from not commuting, use it to cook yourself better food. And better will mean something different for everyone because everyone has different bodies. Some people will die on a diet that will be really good for someone else. But feed yourself stuff that's high quality. Just remember that we're not just emotional and spiritual beings, we're physical ones too, and the other stuff is tied to it. Another thing I would say is go outside once a day. It doesn't matter if you just close your front door behind you, breathe in, look at the sky for 2 seconds, and go back inside. You get quarantine brain after a while where the walls feel like they're shrinking, and it's very
Right?
good for
Yes.
you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coin that phrase.
Oh,
It's very good for you to remind yourself that there's a much bigger world out there.
Amen.
And along the same vein, this is related to limit media exposure, but I would say try to do your social media and your emails in batches instead of letting them interrupt your day constantly.
Oh.
Group them together and just go boom, 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 boom. and just unless the headline is something like "Your church is burning," leave it alone until the next time you're ready to do a batch.
Which is possible, apparently.
It is
It is.
possible.
It is
Yes.
actually.
Who
Yes.
knew?
Ouch.
It actually
Yeah,
is.
True. Yes. Yes. Have any of you heard of earthing? I was introduced to this idea, the actual official phrase for it, by Donovan Cha. Shout out to Don Dees DeLuise, in an article that he read on how to preserve your sense of self-care. And one of those things that helps you is earthing. And it is exactly what it sounds like. Basically, getting in touch with earth, like so walking barefoot. On dirt or grass, getting out to touch natural elements. If you get a moment to be in the ocean, get in the ocean. But those kind of things really, they help to decrease your anxiety. And I was just thinking of that when Jillian, when you were talking about getting outside. I think someone else had mentioned, Sarah had mentioned like trying to get out. But yeah, this is a real thing. There's been study that shows earthing is an amazing thing. Yes, Annie jumps in here. Absolutely, Annie. Annie says that earthing is amazing. It does wonders for my mental and physical health. I agree with her. So on that
So I
note-
heard Zac Efron say that, and I'm like,
Oh, really?
all right, if Zac Efron said it, let's
Really,
go.
Zach? He must have heard me talking about it. Yeah, it's
Right? That's totally what I was thinking right now.
Shout
Okay.
out to Zac Efron.
Shout out to Zach.
Yeah.
Zach, catch the show, baby. This one's for you. Okay, give us 2 easy tips on how to rock at public speaking. We all know that as pastors, one of your things that you have to do fairly regularly, whether you like to or not, is public speak. Preaching, vespers, social things, community things. Being up front is one of the parts and parcels that you have to deal with. So, ladies, can you all give us 2 things someone can do that will help them prepare and make their public speaking that much better? I'm going to start this time with Celeste. Go, Celeste, do it.
So I would definitely say listen to other speakers. That the best thing that you can do is listen to speakers and pick up on their cues and how fluid they are. I think one of the things that we struggle with when you're speaking is the pauses in between and your thought process. So listening to the way that other speakers are able to stream things together. I love listening to powerful speakers. And so that would be my number 1.
Fantastic.
And my number 2 is probably just finding your own style. And I think sometimes you have to try things out and fail at it. It's okay to fail, but you have to be confident in whatever style you find comfortable with. If you're more of a teacher, use your teaching ability to teach as you're speaking. If whatever you're charismatic, use your charisma to speak. Whatever your comfort is, then you just use that and hone that skill really well.
Fantastic. Very good. Sarah, what about you? By the way, if you haven't heard these 4 ladies, all of them can preach. All of them can bring a word. And their styles all vary just a little bit, but it's been fantastic. In fact, Sarah and Celeste helped us with the week of prayer for all the high schools down here in Southern California. Shout out to our academies. We had a week of prayer last week that involved every single academy on the same week. This past week. It was fantastic. We had the
Wow.
presentations for teachers. We had presentations for parents. We had presentations for all kids of all grades. And of course, Celeste and Sarah were part of that. So if you want to follow them and see some of the stuff they're doing, their handle is right under their name. This is my little like advertisement for you ladies. Go follow them on Instagram. Check out their stuff. They're preaching everywhere, and it's fantastic. Sarah, give us 2 tips, would you?
Well, on my Instagram, I'm more about pictures of where I go, so you won't see me preaching on there. But
Yeah,
you're
that's
welcome
true.
to follow me anyways. So for me, I've never been excited about public speaking. So things that really help me, because I always get nervous, even now, even after preaching 7 years now, I still get nervous when I preach. Something that really helps me is I'm actually a manuscript person. So I actually write out the whole thing. I don't read it, but it helps me to know where I'm going, and I practice it at least once. I would suggest 3 times if you can, so that you don't have to look down. And then you kind of get all the kinks out too. And I guess this is the third one. Sorry, Icky, but in one of my preaching
Hey,
classes,
slow it down, buddy. You're giving too many tips. No, go ahead.
in one of my, I did two combined.
Okay.
In one of my preaching
You
classes,
wanted
my
female
teacher,
pastors. We got
Yeah, I know.
stuff for you.
This is what I get when I ask for female pastors. We haven't even gotten to the good stuff yet.
Okay, really quick. One of my pastor teachers, there we go, said, if anyone ever invites you, say yes. Even if you're scared, even if it makes you nervous, just keep practicing. Just keep doing it. Just keep saying yes to invitations, and you'll get better.
Good. So good. So good. I like to preach from a menu script, if you will.
Wow.
No, that one didn't make
Where's
it.
the
Okay.
buzzer?
We're cutting that out of the sermon for next week. Jillian, share with us 2 tips.
Okay, so preaching is its own beast, but for public speaking of any kind, take care of your voice. Again, you are not just your words, you also have a physical body that delivers them. So hydrating and just making sure that you care for that voice is so very important. But also secondly, whether if you're first starting out with public speaking and stuff still makes you nervous, if you can, make sure that you can check out the space. And even if you don't practice in there ahead of time, just walking through it, imagining yourself doing it, visualizing the people there can help take the edge off of the nervousness that you feel. Just getting comfortable in that space. And, as a side note, this may be less of an issue for the guys, but a part of being comfortable is making sure that your clothing does not distract you from preaching. If you are uncomfortable in high heels, do not wear
Preach, girl.
you're saying instead of how much your feet hurt.
Preach. That's true for men and women. Yeah, make sure you're in your armor that you feel most comfortable in, right? Josie, we're going to end with you on this 2 tip here. Give us 2 tips. Make us better public speakers.
I would definitely, and this is actually something I did during quarantine, find a mentor, find somebody who is better than you and is someone that you would like to become a little bit more of. And then get them to, watch your sermons, talk you through it, correct your theology. It's really, really helpful. And the second thing that I would say is especially during COVID, find reasons to preach. Like I did videos for kids, and so I started doing little videos, and in those videos I had these little 2-second sermons, or I'd read this little thing from my little Bible board book, and then I'd give a little sum up of that. Just find excuses and create your own appointments so that you can practice more and be innovative with it. So it's a good time to do it.
Man, see, everybody, you're really lucky because you're actually getting 8 tips. Which this is supposed to be 2 tips, but no, it's more like 9 since Sarah gave an extra one.
Yes.
Jonah asked, where do we get those videos, Josie?
Oh, I have them on the Haven Adventist Church YouTube.
The Haven what?
The Haven Adventist Church, I can double check it, but it's on our YouTube page.
Check out the Haven's YouTube page. They've got them up there. Mentorship is definitely needed, Kevin. You're absolutely correct. Okay, thanks, ladies.
Hey,
let's go to our last
Icky,
tip.
how about I
Is
give
this
a
another
shout
tip,
out to
Sarah? That's 4.
No, this
Slow
is
your
for
tip
One
roll
House.
down. What is it?
This is for One House.
Okay.
We have Wednesday words every Wednesday at noon. So if you ever want to practice, we need speakers. Just hit up
We
Icky.
do.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Sarah. Let's stop for that moment.
Way to
right
get
there.
the plug-in, Sarah.
Way to get that plug in. That's a nice little commercial.
way to go,
Because Icky
Sarah.
was like falling off on that one.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
Well, I was trying to be guarding because Sarah, I didn't want her to drop another 6 more tips on 2 tips. It's not called 9 tips, Sarah. It's called 2 tips. But Sarah is absolutely right. Midweek, every Wednesday on our One House IG at 12 sharp, we come on, and it's literally a 3-minute word. So we'll have one of our spiritual leaders around their conference here, one of our youth leaders, one of our pastors, one of our teachers. They'll come on and give you a 3-minute word to get you through the hump and get you into the weekend spiritually. So if you would like to jump in on us, please make sure you connect. Hit up Sarah at the Grovester 11. She's kind of one of our lead members in putting those together. All right, let's go
you
to.
guys, I'm so impressed. I'm so impressed with all the things that you're doing. I'm going to steal all your ideas because we're not doing that here, and I'm going to take all the credit for it.
Take every one of them. These are from the Holy Spirit, Josie. We make it up as we go around here, all right? So it's all yours.
Only if you come on a Wednesday word, Josie.
Oh yeah, I'll use the
Yeah,
Grove
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
Josie, you are definitely coming on. Thanks, Sierra. Thank you so much. It's a blessing to have you on here. Keep rocking with us as we go through. Okay, ladies, please, let's get back to business here. We haven't even gotten through our 3, 2, 1 yet. It's like 4:44. Our time is
Oh, my
almost up.
goodness.
Okay, give us one tip each. Could you give us one tip that you could give your male counterparts in ministry that would help them in ministry? What is one thing that you could give a person like myself in ministry that will help me in ministry? We'll start with Celeste. Celeste
I was
always
like,
got something to say.
who's going to jump in? Okay, so I'm not going to direct this at you, Icky, because you're amazing and you do such a good job
God
in like
bless
gender
thee, Celeste.
equality. But I think that there is a stigma with the male gender. So I'm trying to just generalize. So I apologize if it comes across. But mental health seems to be something that men tend to struggle with and aren't always willing to talk about as a reality in this world today. And so I would say for men, it would be really beneficial to pursue more information about what you can do about mental health. People are afraid of counselors and getting counseling, but you really don't know what counseling is like unless you've experienced it. And so if you want to counsel someone to go get counseling, then you should probably know what it's like. And so I would say, don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of getting counseling because there's nothing bad that's going to come out of it. You're only going to be a stronger, better person.
Man, Celeste, thank you for that. I think you've spoken a lot of empowerment there to men. I know that sometimes we feel pigeonholed by that kind of issue. We feel like, because of our masculinity, we can't ask for help. It's a sign of weakness for us to get counseling, and it really isn't. And because we do that as males, as men, because we do that, it harms us more personally, familially as well as professionally. So yeah, taken to the heart. Thank you. Let's go. You know what? And I'm going to flex so that in case you have another answer, what's one thing you can do to make better relationship connections during this time? So you can pick one of those two that you would like to do. Okay. Let's go over to Jillian. Jillian, what do you think?
So getting back to something that would be good for my male colleague. Pandemic breaks and this becomes a part of church life again. The process of food preparation. If you have a group of dedicated women or women and men in the kitchen who are preparing your potluck in the kitchen, do not preach long and make the food go cold. Do not expect your deaconesses to crank out an entire communion with only 24 hours of notice. These things may not sound to you like they take as much love, effort, and care as preparing a sermon does, but in many cases they do. For many of these people, predominantly women, but also some men, food is their art. It is their ministry. So we need to respect that, treat it with kid gloves, and love on it. And hop in the kitchen every once in a while to help with the dishes. It goes a long ways towards spreading goodwill.
So good. That was so good. I feel like you were talking to me now. Josie.
I think one thing that I would say is find a safe group of colleagues that are around you, like pastors that are around you, and build connections with them. One thing that I've heard is it's hard for men to find people that they can really talk to and that's something that happens naturally to women.
Mm.
Like I'll have a deep emotional connection. I can cry with somebody. I can, call my best friend. I can say I don't know what to do, and I don't know if that's true. That's what I've heard, but find someone that you can do ministry with, that knows what it's like to be a pastor, that you can trust, that you just share your deepest places of shame in terms of leadership. You can share your places where, things are going wrong family wise, and find that to be a place where it's safe. Like it's okay, because everybody has like relationship issues, and everybody feels like they're a failure at some point in leadership, but you need that communal sense of normalization of what you feel are your faults.
Yeah, true. Because we don't recognize those off immediately, do we? Normally, what people post on Facebook or what you see on their final product is rarely ever where they're at, and so sometimes we judge ourselves and we feel isolated.
Yeah, and what
Because-
I heard was 3 to 4 connections,
Yeah.
3 to 4 people, and that significantly improves your mental health. But if it's like 7, 8, or 10, the number doesn't increase. But from 1 to 4, every connection improves your mental health.
Ooh, so good, so good. Sarah, give us a tip, girl. One tip. I'm just playing with you. I always
We got
rock
10
Sarah.
minutes,
I love
Sarah,
working
you
with that
go.
girl. She's awesome.
Wow. I had it, and then you said that, and then I lost it.
Be good to your leaderships that lead out on Wednesday.
So I'm cracking jokes on him.
So I say this I would say this to any colleague, and I know Jillian's heard this from me before. I think self-care is so important. And as pastors, we don't know how to say no sometimes. We don't know how to have boundaries. People can call us at 7 in the morning. I will not answer unless, you're in dire need of something. But I know a lot of pastors who don't take a day off, who don't even have, they just keep going and going, and it's not healthy. And then later on in life, there's a lot of physical ailments. There's a lot of stress. It affects the family. It affects the church eventually. So I just want to encourage all of us to make sure that we take care of ourselves. Like when you go on a plane, they say put the oxygen mask first before you put it on your child. As pastors, we would definitely need to make sure we're taking care of ourselves.
So good. Okay. Thank you, Sarah. Celeste, what do you think females can uniquely bring to the ministry table? What do you think happens when we impart power and we lift up our lady pastors? What do you think can happen?
Well, as you can see right here, the conversation just keeps going.
Definitely much more interesting, I'll tell you that.
So it's really funny. So I'm going to tell you a quick story. So my husband and I were having a conversation when we meet new people. My husband is like the king of asking people questions. But the other day, we had people over and I was the one asking questions, but I ask personal questions. My husband will get where they grew up, where their parents live, what their parents do for a living. He'll get the information, but I feel like when I'm sitting down and having a conversation, I really don't care about that stuff. I want to know the heart. And so I feel like as we work together, I think that there's a uniqueness in both sides of things. And so I definitely don't want to male bash it anyway, because there's so much strength in the unity of male female. And so I would say that working together, we're able to get a full picture of getting to know somebody, because I'm not afraid to ask deep questions and they're not afraid to ask the hey, because it matters where somebody grows up and what their parents do. So I think that combination of working together really helps us to get to know people on a deeper level.
Good. How many of you, by show of hands, have ever felt unsafe in ministry? Have you? Okay. Would any of you like to share? It doesn't have to be the specific situation, but would like to share what that means to feel unsafe?
I believe that
can-
all three of us have been threatened by the same guy at one point or another. There was one that was just floating from church to church for a while.
Yeah. What are some things or principles or ideas or issues? Go ahead.
I think that I've been told that wearing a certain color of dress makes men feel more attracted to you. I have been stalked, and I know that's not uncommon. I have, had people tell me, if they were younger, and sometimes it seems innocent, that I wouldn't be single. And apparently that's only if they're the only one making the decision,
Right.
And so there's just all of these things where there was a time where somebody was threatening to come and disturb my church service, and it felt as if people were more concerned about someone else than they were about making sure that I felt safe when I came to preach at church. And that's hard because it's physical safety. That was the first time I got an alarm system in my home. Now I just know my neighbors really well, and there's some older people, and they're always like, so I feel safe from our alarm systems.
Praise the Lord for that.
I think that is so important what you're saying though, Josie, because I don't know that people realize just how much more as a female pastor that you have to put up with on top of this position not being welcoming or necessarily open to women. You also have to deal with physical safety, emotional safety, mental safety. These are things that many pastors like myself would take for granted because we've never had to worry about that. We've never had to think about that particular layer. Does anybody else want to?
I think too, like when you have to be at work late,
Yeah.
if your church isn't like the church I was at previously, it was not a safe place, at night especially. And just thinking about that, like as a man, you're not thinking about the fact that you're at the office 10, 11 o'clock at night. You're going to get in your car and you're going to go home. I have to make a phone call to my husband, okay, I'm walking out of the church right now, stay on the phone with me. So I make sure I can get into my car. And so it's just weird safety issues that I don't know, that it's always, as a woman, it's always an issue. It's always
not just as a pastor, as
Right.
just a woman.
Yeah, you're
It's
taught
that
to-
thing that
Starting
constantly
there.
follows you.
You're taught to always, especially at night, be aware of your surroundings, and always be aware if there's someone following you. Always, have your keys in your hand. Don't search for your keys by your car, even during the daytime. And
I actually keep mine between my fingers too, so I have a weapon as well.
That's why I'm constantly scared of Sarah. I'm not gonna lie. She's always got this, when she's talking to me, she's like, look.
Only at night.
No.
I said
I
I'm not
took martial arts
in a
for a while
pastoral
because of
class.
this stuff.
In a pastoral class, they taught us ladies to hold our key between our fingers. Jillian, do you remember that pastor's meeting? And to walk out with it, so that way we would feel safe. It's crazy.
You're
Who was
gonna
the
laugh.
sidekick?
I
I want to give
actually-
a shout out to you, sidekick. I'm
Sidekick
watching your
rocks.
messages on there. You're awesome.
Let me ask this. Now, besides, I know that there are some really great male pastors that we all work
There are.
with that support you. I love, shout out to Southern California Conference, man. Boom. That's my,
Yes.
I love my peoples here.
Absolutely.
I love my president. I love my executive officer. That VP of evangelism, he's kind of shady, but I'm like, Jimmy, I love you, man. No, I love
He's
these guys
good. He's good.
because they super support and they're super good. But have you ever been in a space with other pastors? Because once again, we take it for granted. We're around a bunch of guy pastors. We're like, yeah, this is normal, feels good. Have you ever been in a situation where you've been around a group of pastors and it's made you feel a little bit alienated or made you feel a little, pressed out because of, your gender?
I think
There
it's one thing
have-
to. Sorry,
Josie,
Jillian, go
and then
ahead.
Jillian,
No, after Josie.
I think it's one thing to say that you're supportive of women in ministry, and then it's another thing to actually be supportive.
Mm.
So to most women, and most of my ministry has been as an associate, and you know, and I've been told, hey, I'm in charge, and you need to, you know, do what I essentially tell you. I don't know, maybe all associates are told this, but I think that there is this sense of there's this sense of you are I just lost my train of thought. Icky, help me ask the question again.
No, I won't.
Part of it is fire brain, and part of it is my ADD. So just give me an exemption here.
Yeah, you got to
You're
pass.
good,
pass.
Josie. We love
You
you.
gotta pass. So this is COVID. Don't worry. You're good. You're good. Jillian, fill us back in, and then Josie, come back. Josie, you were leading to the fact that it's one thing to say you support someone; it's another thing to actually do that thing, right? And what does that look like, especially if you're senior pastor, you know, being an authority figure? And hey, listen, being a pastor, if people don't understand, is an authority figure situation. So when you say something to people, it's not like a suggestion to many people. It's like a command, a demand. So we've got to be careful about, you know, how we play our role. Josie, think on that. Jillian, go ahead and lean in on this.
The two things that have been most irritating peer to peer have been the question, why did you decide to go into ministry? It can either be a good faith, asking for your story, or it can be prove yourself to me. Why are you here? It can feel very irritating and hostile sometimes. The other thing, and I've heard people from all kinds of positions do this, is to say women are emotional, good multitaskers. Incidentally, multitasking is physically impossible even for women. The part of your brain that handles task switching is bigger in women, so we do it faster.
Yeah.
But actual multitasking costs us energy too.
Yeah. Yeah. True. Wow.
Yeah,
Good.
I think that it's the hard part about supporting a woman is that, like, you just need to be comfortable in your own skin. And I think that there are times where because of who you are, you'll do things that are better, and people will see that as just the way you make connections. The fact that, Celeste, I totally agreed with you when you say I don't have an issue asking the deep questions, because I don't want to know somebody's age or where they grew up, or I want to know, you know, what was your family like, and I want to know what made you do what you're doing, or how'd you end up in this church, or how, you know, just something that's a little bit deeper. And
Do you feel like men are intimidated by that, Josie?
I think
not all
that
men, obviously, but
I think that
still
I
at the
think
bottom.
that sometimes I think sometimes because of that, like, at least for me, like, I'll be known in certain spheres, and then it's like, oh, the Haven, you know, Pastor Josie, and it's like, wait a minute, she's my associate. You know, like, it's just, as opposed to, yeah, isn't she great? Like,
Right.
I'm just so glad, you know, I love working with, you know, it really does play on the ego, and in society, women support men. Like, I dumb myself down so that, you know, I can say, oh, I don't know, you know, what do you think? Or and I'm kind of trying to give myself permission to not have to be the one that's less smart, so that men don't get angry at me. Like, I just kind of have to deal with their anger and go, I'm sorry, that's not a good decision.
Quite interesting, Josie. Quite interesting, because I think that's something we all feel. As a pastor, you got to be careful of that shine. We get a little addicted to that, right? Like, you get a good sermon, and somebody accidentally shouts out "Amen," and you all of a sudden you're a superstar rock star, and you know, and then you get addicted to that. So you're like, I need another "Amen," and I need people to know who I am, and I need people to recognize my brand, and so I got to go on, and I'm doing all this stuff, and it's hard for us to give props or to cite others appropriately or to lift other ministers up, but maybe it's even uniquely more challenging for females, and which is something I'm I'm not privy to because I've never had to deal with it from your perspective. But you're very right when you say that, you know, just as a normative, we're used to females being more of a supportive role. And so that could cause some kind of intimidation between, you know, a male pastor and his colleague or his associate.
And
Yeah,
I
I
don't
wanna
like to
jump in
talk
on
about
that.
sports.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh,
Jump in,
go
Celeste.
ahead. Finish your thoughts, Josie. What were you going to say?
Yeah,
Sorry.
the
No, no,
sport
no,
thing.
you're
Go
good.
there.
I don't like sports. There are times where I just tune out and like all the guys are like, oh yeah, LeBron, and I'm like,
Be
I
very
have vented
careful for the next
opinions
couple
about
words you
sports
use.
teams I never watch.
You
So I'm
gotta
a total
pretend like,
supporter of sports. It's totally okay with me, just so you know.
yeah.
Only because my husband's into it. Actually, I wanted to jump on what you were saying, Josie, and I love what you were saying because as a woman, when like some of the things that I was counseled in from my male counterpart pastors is being careful not to be over assertive and to use my feminine gentleness to get people to do what I want, as opposed to this is what we're going to do. Because if I were a senior pastor, or if I was in charge of a project, you would be in charge. But as a female, the connotations are extremely negative for a strong female leader. And their words that they use to describe a strong female leader who is a go-getter and we're doing it this way, there's nothing positive. Whereas when you have a male counterpart who could react the same exact way and do that, it's, oh, he's a great leader.
yeah.
And so there's a fight that we have in trying to, Josie, what you're saying, be gentle and be like, how do you see us doing that? So we can get people on board with us to gently get us them to move where we want them to go, which I think is great leadership. I'm not saying
Yeah.
anything against that, but there are times where,
Yeah. Soft
you know,
power
we
is
need
great.
to move and this is what we're going to do because, you know, a change needs to happen. And so I think that that's
Metrics
a
aren't
dynamic
being
that-
used equally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. Sarah, by the way, if you're watching with us, we've gone overtime by 5 minutes because it felt like we just got started. We're gonna be on for another 5 minutes, so just hang with us for another 5 minutes, all right? Don't even sweat it. This is good for you. It's good for me. Let's eat it like Wheaties and enjoy our time with these amazing pastors. Sarah, let me ask you, what would you say, or how have you said it, to individuals who may or may not, with good intentionality, say something like,
It's
well,
unbiblical to be a pastor.
it's unbiblical for you to be a female pastor. How have you responded to that? And, you know, how do you shepherd that? How do you shepherd? It's hard to do that, but how do you? And ladies,
So I
you
went
can jump
to-
in and piggyback on her when she goes.
You go,
I went
Sarah.
to a birthday party and the grandma asked me that question at a birthday party.
Your grandma?
I shut that, the grandma of the person whose birthday party I went to.
Ah, yes.
And I just shut it down and said, I don't think this is the appropriate place to have this discussion. I mean, we went into it for a bit, but she wasn't having it. And so I was like, you know what? This is probably not the best place to have this discussion. We could talk about it another time. I had a stranger come up to me a visitor come up to me after I preached and told me how the Bible doesn't say I'm allowed to be a pastor and he's just trying to be biblical. And I just replied, oh, I'm just trying to be biblical too. I'm just following what God has opened for me to do.
Nice.
So, I mean, you could talk to him about it. I had a very good friend that I grew up with who I love to death. And she's actually a different denomination and told me everything that was like textbook of typical responses to being unbiblical. And I just said, you know, same thing, you know, God has called me to this. And so I'm just trying to be obedient. And so can we still be friends? Can we still love each other?
Yeah.
That was probably the most hurtful though, was my very good friend who I've done Bible studies with, who I went to middle school and high school with, saying that to me. And if you notice, usually it's women who are telling me. And some flat out just say, I don't agree with this, but I'll support you. And that doesn't make sense to me when people say that. But I just try to be gracious, but I also try to shut it down quickly because usually when they're approaching me, they don't want to have an actual discussion. They want me to be obedient to their words, and I'm only obedient to God. So that's how I roll.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm too abrupt. I don't know.
Is that how you handle your man too, Sarah? You're like, roll with it.
I mean, we've
I
been
love
together
that
5 years, so if he doesn't like my bluntness, he would have left by now. So
Jillian, how do you answer that question? Have you had to?
It depends on the situation and the mood I'm in. As you can tell from the stacks of books behind you, I am the sort of person who's willing to engage on the academic discussion of whether I should be allowed to be a pastor or not. I
Yeah.
can go there if someone wants to go there. But most of the time, that's not the best idea. If there's another point of connection I can have than the discussion as to whether I biblically should be a pastor, I'd rather talk about those things. Everyone has so many other points of connection we can enjoy, and sometimes the force of the soft power, again, of making the effort to connect with people on the areas where we don't have to be in friction, can sometimes earn and gain their trust for those things.
So good. Thank you. Celeste, what's your favorite part of ministry?
Oh my gosh. Okay. The connections that you make, I know there's just like, okay, I have to get this in real quick. I think the people that you're able to inspire that you don't even realize it. The people that you connect with that you think, that kid in your like youth group or Sabbath school class that you just think is not listening to you, and just, they're always just, and it'll take sometimes it's like a few years, and all of a sudden they'll come back to you and talk to you and be like, hey, remember that one time you said this? And you like have no recollection of what you said.
Right.
But those kids that you think aren't listening, like my favorite part of ministry is recognizing the fact that the people that I don't think are listening are really listening. So
Yeah,
what we say
absolutely.
has an effect on people, and when you passionately pour yourself into, especially young people, it matters. And so
Yes.
that's my favorite part.
It does. And finally, our last question for time, I'm going to ask Josie. Josie, what is your least favorite part of ministry?
The arguments.
yeah.
Felt little things, or the passive aggressive emails. I hate the passive aggressive emails, and I really want to email my assertive email back, but then I just go, I'll just ignore it. Like I'm not even going to give that the time of day. But it's it's like the worst part of ministry, but it's also the best part, because we don't grow when things are easy. We grow when things are difficult. And so, I try to, kind of take that with gratitude and say, Lord, thank you for this person who always sends me passive aggressive emails, because you're teaching me how to be good to people and
Long-suffering.
to not take it personally, because that's not about me.
Yeah.
It's about them, and their inability to be kind is not my fault. And I'm not going to own that. And sometimes I do own it. And sometimes I'm like, gosh, what can I do to be a better pastor so that they realize like how many hours I'm putting into this.
Yeah.
So it's just that it's when you have to deal with the argument, when you have to deal with passive aggressiveness, and then the denial of, what do you mean? That's not what I meant. It's all you. There's something wrong with you. It's like, that's what I hate. But that's when you deal with anybody, when you're a leader. So
It's true.
It's
Yeah.
not just pastoral ministry.
Thanks for that. That's the devotional version, by the way, everybody. That's not the support group version.
Right.
The support group version is like,
Well, because I didn't want to leave on a bad note. Like,
No,
you
you're right.
always gotta
You're right.
pronounce
You're right.
to
You're
teach
right.
us something through that.
Yeah.
I'm going to end us out this afternoon by asking you all to share one sentence of something you could say to inspire little Josies or little Celestes, little Jillians, little Sarahs, little Ickies out there who are thinking about, what does God have for me in my future here, and what voice should they be listening to? Could you sum up in one sentence, each of you, one One, Sarah. One sentence for everyone today. Inspire those who are watching along or who will catch this later on in a recording. Would you? Let's start with. I'm going to start with Celeste.
Oh, I was hoping you'd have gone to someone else. Okay.
Sorry.
What I would say is this: is dealing with a lot of like young adults, like from high school to college, the transition. People are so afraid to make mistakes. What if I get into this career and it's not? What if this isn't where God is calling me? And I just want to say, like, don't be afraid to fail.
Ooh.
Like, honestly, failure is okay. It's not the end of the world. You pick up, you go in a different direction. But you chase after the things that you really believe that God has called you to do, and you do it wholeheartedly. And if you run into like speed bumps along the way, it's okay. But you go through them no matter what. And there's a difference between speed bumps and failure. So don't be confused between the two.
Preach. Jillian.
Learn from the wisdom of those who have gone before you. If I were to elaborate on that, one of the most important influences in my life, and not because of what she wrote, but because of who she was, is Ellen White. And I think that learning from her story and then also learning from those who have come more recently has been valuable to me. And I think that's something that transfers whether your calling is to ministry or to opening a taco shop. Listen to those who have come before you.
Nice. Very good. Sarah.
So I'm going to say my favorite all-time verse, and it's 1 Timothy 4:12. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believer in speech, in life, in love, in faith, and in purity. So just a shout out, if you memorize that and see me, I will take you out to Starbucks, because that is the most important verse I want every young person to memorize. Don't let anyone look down on you. Just keep doing you. Keep doing what God has called you to be.
Wow, that's a word, Sarah. Thank you, and that makes a lot of sense, everybody, from Sarah, because Sarah and I are the youngest on this chat. We're the same. We're the same age. I think we're Gen Zers, and these other old ladies here on the thing.
Technically, Jillian's
you don't have to go there. Josie, you know
They're like mother figures to Sarah and myself. Josie.
God is at work all around you, so constantly ask God, how can I partner with what you're already doing?
That's a difficult question to ask in these times right now, and yet it is probably the number one question we should be asking. Turning to God every day. God, how can I partner with you in the tumultuous climates that we live in, during this pandemic, during the isolation? How can I be an agent of peace and reconciliation?
Yeah.
Good. Ladies, thank you so much. It has been a great honor and privilege to hang out with you.
Thank you.
You are the longest I've ever held anyone. I think it feels like it. We've been on for quite some time, and only because it felt like the time flew by. Thank you so much. If I can, I would love to have you all on again sometime in the future, and we'll get through some of the other questions. We didn't even do the love one, leave one today, everybody, because we didn't have time for the love one, leave one today. I'm sorry, but we will get around to it. Jillian, this was the one chance you're actually on live with me that we could do it in person, and we're not going to actually do it.
Yes.
Thank you,
I love
everyone.
that game.
I know.
I was looking forward to it.
I know. I had some good questions. I'm saving it for you, though. I'm going to remove these, and
Okay.
I'm going to save it for you. Kevin says thank you. Sidekick says thank you. And to the rest of you all, thank you for joining us today. Next week, we've got Hannah D. We're going to be talking about her new EP that just came out. We're going to talk about what it means to be an OT out in Loma Linda while continuing to create good, positive, creative music into the world that we live in. So Kevin says I'm right. All right, okay, Kevin. Okay, buddy. I see you. You're never coming on this show. You know that? Never. But next week, we're going to be hanging out with Hannah D. So you don't want to miss out. Come back on. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, pass this, share it to everybody. Let them see the great work that God is doing through our women pastors here in the ministry all over California and the world. Don't be frightened or ashamed of it. They are rocking, my peoples. Thank you, ladies. Until next week, everybody, stay safe, stay sane. I'll see you at the next Tuesday Tea Time. We're not off yet, ladies.
I was like pointing in the wrong direction.